when we trying to create togetherness, a lot of times we try to go on the similarities, and I feel like we should really be looking at the differences and going, wow, how amazing is it that you dance that way, and how cool is it that your food is like that, and I want to try that. And the more open that we become to difference, that's actually how we create the inclusion.
Hello, hello, and welcome to the show. It makes me so happy to share these conversations with you, and it means a lot to me that you're supporting. It is really important to me in the midst of these challenging times we're in for us not to fall into despair. I am drawn to people who are saying, nope, we got to keep on marching. Together, we can find a way. So today, someone who is doing that through his music, Michael Franti, the globally recognized singer, songwriter, musician, joy seeker, has been making music for more than 3 decades. But for Michael, it's really not just about, topping charts and selling millions of albums or downloads or whatever we call them now. His music and his live shows, if you've been to them, you know they are infused with messages of hope, a sense of connection, and some light in the darkness of these troubled times. So it gives me all the pleasure in the world to welcome Brother Michael Franti to the show. Hello, hello. How are you?
Great to see you, Michaela. Greetings from Omaha,
Oh,
which is
hello,
where I am on
Omaha.
tour right now, which is an amazing place to be. And it's funny, you go on tour and you have these sort of midway points between everywhere, and
Yeah.
Omaha just seems to be one. So it's like always the place we're stopping to get to somewhere else. And so we've actually been here 3 times in the last 2
Oh
weeks,
my gosh.
just
Omaha's seen a lot of
crisscrossing
you.
the country. And we spend a lot of days off here, and so it's been really good.
Omaha, who knew
We,
Omaha
we
would
have
be
a
your
fondness for Omaha
I was gonna
now.
say, who knew it would be your home away from home? So this is a national tour in the United States, but also I noticed there's some European dates, some Australia dates as well.
Yeah, in Canada too.
Oh, good. Thank you
You're
for not
you're home.
forgetting my
You're home.
Canadians.
Yeah.
And are you
And
midway through at this point that we're recording this?
no, we're very early on. We're 2 weeks into about a 4.5 month tour. So the tour is called the Togetherness Tour, and I called it that because I really feel it's important that with all of the division that we feel in our lives between, you know, all these ways that we chop each other up,
Yeah.
ethnicity, religion, politics, gender, sexual identity, like all these things. Um, that when you get out and you meet people face to face, that those things really just kind of disappear, and you
They melt
realize like
away, don't
the
they?
world the world isn't as dark and as divided as our internet algorithms present us.
Yeah.
And so that's why I called it Togetherness. And it's been amazing just to get out and to create a space for people to experience that. And I'm somebody who believes there's no one that you wouldn't love if you knew their story.
I could not believe it. Just a few episodes ago, I talked to Chef Carla Hall about food being this great connector, right? That if you sit and break bread with somebody, you can't hold hate in your heart for them, right? And I think there's something about that communal shared experience of music. If you're in a live venue like your shows, I've been there. There is this shared experience that you're having, and especially when your music is so infused with meaning and significance and hope and this sense of connection is powerful.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing that a lot of us are feeling today. And I know I am. Is like I feel this like deep sense of loneliness. Like the more social media I absorb, the more lonely I actually feel.
Right.
And then when I get out and I have a meaningful conversation with someone and sit face to face with someone, hear the aspects of their story that have been challenges for them that they get through and come to the other side, I feel like this richness again, and this sense like I'm not the only person in the world who feels this way about things or has feelings, period. And the great thing about music is that people think of my music as joyful. Sometimes they say you make happy music, and I try to make people feel happiness through the music,
Uh-huh.
but the way to get there is to have ease of heart,
Yes.
and so that whatever is inside you can pass through with ease. If it's great sadness and pain or sorrow or anger or whatever the myriad of emotional combinations that we have that come into our hearts. And my father, so I was just a little bit of backstory for people who know nothing about me. I was born to a woman who is Irish, German, and Belgian, and her or my father, biological father, is African American and Nottoway Indian from the mountains of Virginia.
Mhm.
But I was adopted by the Franti family,
Mhm.
who were second generation immigrants from Finland, and they had three kids of their own. And then they adopted myself and another African American son. And just to round things out, I have one sister who's a lesbian, a brother who's a police officer. So we're
We
like
are the
kind of like
world, baby. We are the
we're
world.
we got all it, everything, you know. And my father, who raised me, was an alcoholic,
Mm.
and so I grew up in this household where there was very little in between, like sort of cynicism and sarcasm from him, and then rage on the other end of the spectrum. And everything else in the middle was kind of like blocked off, right?
Wow.
But when he turned 66, he had a stroke and he blossomed into this beautiful human being. It was like he was a butterfly that had been in a chrysalis for 66 years.
The rebirth.
He came out and was very kind to strangers, complimentary to people who he had never met before. He'd sit and speak with people about their own struggles with addiction. He became this beautiful person. And we had lunch together one time my whole life, because when you have five kids, you don't really get to have lunch
Right,
alone
that's
or
true.
dad alone, you know what I mean? And so I went to see him and he was 68. And I said, Dad, it's amazing how much you've changed.
Mm.
And he said, I haven't changed. And I was like the trombone of disappointment went off in my head, like, wah, 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 I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, I've always felt this way. I was just never able to express it. It was like he had like a stone in front of his heart that just couldn't be removed. But somehow when he had this stroke, he's like, he had to really humble himself. Maybe something, some angels came through his brain. I don't know what happened, but he just had this awakening. And um, he said to me, "I'm glad that you defied his his um, judging me for being a musician at first, and decided to still do it, because I see that you really followed your heart and you found an access for you to express this emotion." And he always wanted to be an architect. But he thought, no, who's going to build my buildings? Like, who would want to do my design? And so he decided instead to become a mathematics teacher, which he was never really happy with. Like, he loved math, but he
It
didn't love
wasn't his
teaching
true
people.
joy. It wasn't his heart. It
Yeah,
wasn't his dream.
it wasn't his joy.
Right.
And so, um, it was a learning lesson for me that anybody can change,
Yeah.
and anybody can reveal what is already there in their heart, because we all have this soul and this meaning and um, this passion, these passions that we feel, but so many times it gets blocked. And in this world of social media, it's like we get so binary and stuck in like, oh, I don't want to, I feel shy to express really what I feel. And I don't want to be super contrary to and I can't figure out a way to say this without being mean, and so it's just a tough time. And music for me has been a way of accessing that
Mm.
that sense of soul.
Well, because, too, there is something I believe there is a healing power in music. When I think about things that when if I'm feeling something profoundly, if I'm sad, if I'm working through a blue streak or something, I put on music that soothes my soul and it does do something. It can do that. You and I've talked about this before, but for those that don't know both of our stories, this is where your life as a rocker and my life as a newscaster do intersect in the fact that we both come from adoptive families. I also was adopted as an infant. I'm also biracial. I'm also adopted into a family of five. And that's about where the similarities and but I tell people all the time, within 5 minutes of meeting me, you'll learn two things: that I'm Canadian and that I'm adopted, right? and it shaped who I am. It's part of my story. I wonder how you now, at this point in your life, at this point in your journey, when you reflect on your own adoption, how has it shaped the Michael that we know today?
It's only been really recently that I've sort of uncovered this aspect that I'll share with you now, which is that I have a deep um, sense of feeling abandoned, and it enters into everything that I've done, every relationship that I've had, and both in a positive way, like I want others to feel included all the time, regardless of however, if like if you come from the land of misfit toys and you've got a button sewn on for an eye, I want you to be my
Come on
friend,
over. You're my
come
people.
on over. You're my people, and also being in relationships where I've allowed them or allowed other people to take advantage or trample me or not be able to put up clear boundaries with people because I don't want to be abandoned. And so in order to not feel like they're leaving me, I'll do whatever they say and whatever they need and show up in ways that don't feel good for me. And so it's been something I've really had to unravel. I'm 58 years old now, and I'm just kind of like really starting to see that. But the thing for me in my work has been that um, like inclusion isn't just like some new word for me. Like I believe that every single person in the world at some point in their life feels like they don't belong. It could be in their workplace, it could be in their home, their family of origin, it could be in their chosen family, their circle of family, it could be in society as a whole. And every one of us feels at some point like we're that weird kid, you know. And um, I believe that in the world, so much of what we are is the same. Like even you and I have very similar stories, but everybody needs a roof over their head, needs a job, needs
We have the same
opportunities,
needs and wants,
food,
right?
and that's for all 8 billion of us on the planet. And the difference that we see in the world is really a smaller percentage, and it's in our language and our food and our hairstyle and our clothing or whatever. And that's the most beautiful part of the world.
It is.
Like that small bit of difference is actually the most beautiful part. And so rather than when we trying to create togetherness, a lot of times we try to go on the similarities. And
Right.
I feel like we should really be looking at the differences and going, wow,
Mm.
how amazing is it that you dance that way? And
Right.
how cool is it that your food is like that? And I want to try that. And the more open that we become to difference, that's actually how we create the inclusion, not by telling everybody that they have to conform and be the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like we miss the mark as a society in that way so much of the time.
Well, and I imagine it's so infused in your music. Like I look at the hat you're wearing, Stay Human, the Togetherness tour. You talk about some of the music, the themes that are in the music of and even the vibe in the show, and frankly, the Soul Rocker fam, right? That your fans that have followed you for years. There's a kinship because there is a sense of belonging. It goes beyond just people that are buying your tickets. It goes beyond just people who happen to like your music. There's a sense of connection that you are reciprocating. You're putting it out there, but they're giving it back to you. And so it's like this symbiotic thing. So you're creating what you needed, Michael Franti. You needed that as well.
Yeah, and they're giving it to each other,
Yes, of
and
course. That's the part.
yeah, that's the most important thing for me. And when I think of my, sort of legacy of what we've created in our musical following, is that our fans look after each other.
Mm.
Like they really connect. They really they're people who love meaningful conversation. Every year or every other year we do this thing called the Soulshine at Sea cruise, which is it's basically like a music festival at sea.
That's
But
amazing.
it's for we it's for people that I would say are in um the messy middle of life.
Okay. Which is describe that. I might be in
Like
it.
29 to 89.
Yes. That's a big crew.
Yeah. But, there's like, um, my friend Chip Conley, who's an amazing, thinker and writer. He has this idea of, and has he actually created this academy called the
Mhm.
Modern Elders Academy,
Yes.
which is this really amazing place for people who are like our age, who are, we've lived lives, maybe we've had careers, we've raised children, we've started businesses, and now we're in this middle part of life where before it used to be like we're starting to check out, like if in our parents' generation, but now people are living longer
Yeah, they're
and
just
they're
getting
living
started at
healthier,
this point. They're
and
in
they're
2nd
just
and
getting
3rd
started.
chapters. Yeah,
Yeah, a second and third and fourth chapters, and what are we doing in this time? And this time can, the most common word used with it is midlife crisis, right? That's what you hear. But midlife, uh, my friend, Chip, says that it's actually a chrysalis. It's this time when you like really get to look at where your life is going in a different way and then say, hey, how do I really, with great intention,
mhm,
want to serve, my community, my family, myself,
yeah,
God, universe, whatever. Like, how am I showing up for it? And that's a really great thing. And so, um, our fans are people who are like that.
yeah,
And they're, as much as they love the music and dancing and coming out to a show and having like a time to like blow off steam, they
yes,
also want to engage in meaningful conversation,
right,
And so when we do our cruises, we do, um, in the morning, we have wellness activities. So there's yoga, Pilates, fitness classes, but also wellness isn't just, am I fitting into my jeans or am I eating an organic salad once a week? It's really asking ourselves, am I happy? Like, am I okay in the world? And so we also have, story, telling classes. We have, you know, songwriting workshops, poetry workshops. We have ways of people to access their soul and really look into that. And, for me, what soul is, everything that is passing through us that is not from us. It's like
mm,
that inner knowing, that wisdom that is guiding us, that's saying, this is the right thing for me in this time. And so often we go in the other part of it, which is like
the
the things that
cerebral, the brain, right,
from us that are like
mhm,
my thoughts and where am I going and what am I doing and how I've got to show up for this and I got to be at that. And our soul gets blocked. And so it's really important that we have those moments where we can like get away, or even moments in our day where we can just access that soul part and go, really listen, what is my soul telling me right now?
well, and you've created spaces for that, not only at Soulshine at Sea, but also Soulshine, the retreat in Bali, which is, I mean, to say it's a yoga retreat is probably is only scratching the surface.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Sarah, who's my wife, we talk about this all the time. Like, we are about the joy of wellness,
Mm,
and what that means to us is that there's a lot of places in the world that are like about like really going and journaling and crying and
right.
sitting on a rock and meditating for 12 hours, and you get two peanuts at the end of the day, and that's it. Um, and we're like, we believe in that you can go deep and have these deep, really meaningful experiences and conversations and all that outpouring of emotion. And then at night, we have live bands play
And rock
and we
out.
have DJs come and spin and we rock out. And that you can find that access to soul equally when there's house music playing in the
Absolutely.
middle of the night as you can when you're on your yoga mat.
But it to me, the thing that I love about all of this is because you have just sort of decided to come and do it your own way, right? So I think about the fact that, it even back in the days when you and your record label went in different directions and you said, nope, we're going to start our own record label. And then you were able to have autonomy. You were able to say, this is who I am. This is the kind of music I want to create. These are the kinds of people I want to attract. These are the kind of musicians I want to work with. I want to create this soul shine at sea. I want to create this yoga retreat in Bali. It gave you said, I'm going to carve out this place in the world for me and for people like me and are people that are seeking this. That is such a bold, brave statement. Did that come naturally, or did you have to fight your way to that, Michael? Because that takes chutzpah to say, I'm no, I'm gonna block out how they're telling me to move through this world. I'm gonna block out how others are telling me I should show up, how I should be.
Yeah. Equal parts chutzpah, hard work,
Yes.
naivete, and stupidity. Like
So
like,
the last 2 really, because to me
yeah,
it feels intentional and smart and strategic. You're saying
yeah.
some of this was happenstance?
One of the things that I learned early on, though, was that I wanted to be an investor in me because I believed in my own
That.
vision. So the money that I got from record labels in the start, rather than just pay it towards studios to
Mhm.
rent studio time, I bought studio equipment.
Mhm.
And so I was able to build my own recording studios at a time when that stuff was very expensive.
Yeah.
Now you just need a laptop. But um, I was able to do that. And so, controlling the means of production, then I can make my own records at the pace that I want to.
Mhm.
I could put them out into the world in the ways that I want. And I don't believe that you need to have um, every person in the world like you or appreciate your music. But if there's a small group of people who believe in you and who enjoy what you do, and you're able to serve them
Mhm.
many access to opportunities to connect with you, like you said, like the cruise, like our hotel,
Mhm.
like concerts, like t-shirt, hat, whatever it is, then you can create a sort of micro entrepreneurial field that you can work within that can bring you great success.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be Apple.
Right.
You don't have to be IBM. You can just be your little cottage industry.
A cottage industry that allows you to feel like you're getting to show up authentically in the world without being, without being othered, while creating belonging for yourself, which is something that people like you and I who are seeking that idea that we are enough and that we have value and we belong here. When you're creating your own thing, it gives you that space. I want to talk to you specifically about hope, Michael. It's no lie. I don't need to remind people about the strife, the discontent, the divisiveness in the world. And then there's just the micro things at home that people are facing. We got mental health crisis, opioid addiction. We've got, these things that are real. Um, I think it would be easy for someone to become despondent and cynical. How do you and why do you remain hopeful?
Mm. Well, first of all, I am one of those people who goes through ups and downs just like everybody else. And people listen to my music and they think this guy is just he's happy every time he put the record on. He's happy, and but I go through my highs and lows like anybody else, and I I feel this deep sense of sorrow for the suffering that I see in the world every day,
Same, same.
and um, I also feel a sense of um, personal powerlessness. Like I want to be like helping to end wars, to promote mental health, to reduce gun violence, to bring environmental stability to the planet and economic opportunity for every single person. Healthcare, like so, there's like
The list
a
goes
list,
on, right? Yeah.
so many things, and I'm like, God, what can I possibly do to address any of those things? And I become overwhelmed. And a few of the things that I've learned have been that optimism is not being naive. It's not just waking up and go, "Oh, today's gonna be a great day.
Right.
Yeah, a great
Be
day.
all
No bad
Pollyanna.
vibes,
Right,
all good vibes, whatever."
right.
Like that doesn't really work.
No.
Um, but that's not optimism. Optimism is when you wake up and you say, "Yes, it is a tricky day today, and there are great challenges in the world, and I am still going to show up with positivity and with love and with not only courage from me, but encouragement for others,
Yeah.
and so it's a muscle that you have to grow. It's like it's not something you just wake up and like you're like, oh, suddenly I've got this thing. It's like Steph Curry going to the free throw line at NBA Finals, 2 seconds left. He's got to make 2 shots to win the championship, and he looks over the bench. He goes, "Sorry, coach, I didn't practice."
Right.
It's like he's done it so many
So
times
many
that
times.
it's like it becomes automatic,
Yeah.
and so we have to practice that just that classic PMA, positive mental attitude of waking up and saying, "Ah, okay, I got this. I can do this." And then finding each of our tools, because everybody has a different toolkit that works for them.
Mhm.
For me, one of those things is writing, and actually writing songs, and that's how I process deep emotion. Another thing is listening to music, and that really helps me change my mood. But the main thing is that if I can if I can change my thoughts, I can change my feelings.
Yes.
If I can change my thoughts, I can change my feelings. Um and professional help. I've done years of therapy and working with a therapist to have those, conversations that I felt I couldn't have with anybody else. And my best therapists I've ever had have been my best friends.
Yeah.
They're always the best, like no professional experience, yet they know how to call me on my bullshit.
Same,
Which,
honey. I have some of those. I got a redheaded one that sent me to the beach the other day because she knows that's where I find peace and tranquility and rejuvenation. I was like, "You're right. Okay, off I go." But you got to have those people in your life that will speak truth to power. You know.
yeah. And the other thing is like there's so much great learning that we can absorb if we remain curious.
Mm.
And that's like the thing that sort of like when you look at aging, right? It's like I know people who at age 40 feel like they're really, really old, stuck people.
Yes.
And I know people at age 80, I have them all the time who come to my concerts,
Yeah.
and I'll call them out, who's 80 in the crowd, and I'll bring them up on stage and they'll dance with me. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I was 80, I'd be going to like a music festival. Like, I don't know if I have
State of
that in me or
mind.
not.
It's a state.
And yet I see people every day who are there, and I'm like, that's the person that I want to be. That's that kind of like open-hearted,
Yeah.
open-minded, curious person who's always thinking of new ways. Like maybe there's a better way that I can eat. Maybe there's a better way that I can take care of my body. Maybe instead of running, I'm going to start walking. There's like all these ways that we evolve as in this like, messy middle of our life.
Messy.
But it's so important. And you know, I get to see people like this all the time who come up to me and go, I came to this, soul rocker retreat that you did. And now I always wanted to write poetry. Now I write poetry every day. And I've finished my third book of published
I love
poems,
it.
at age 65, and that's amazing to me. And that's how we keep our youthfulness. It has so much to do with our curiosity and our seeking out of new ways of showing up in the world and being.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. I think it is such a state of mind, and sometimes the woes of the world can make you wake up feeling like you've got a brick on your shoulder or your head, and it does make you feel like it's a fight. But I think the staying hopeful, right, is the key, and staying curious too. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Do It for the Love, the nonprofit you and Sada, started. I think is it a decade ago now?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
10 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
congratulations. A wish granting organization, looking to will you tell me what the mission of Do It for the Love is? Because I think in your own words, it's far more beautiful than I could articulate.
Well, we bring people with advanced stages of life-threatening illness and children and adults with special needs and wounded veterans to see any live concert by any artist. And so people write to us and they say, my sister just came back from Afghanistan and has PTSD or something and wants to see Beyonce and Drake. And another person, my brother has stage 4 cancer and has always wanted to see Garth Brooks or whatever.
Right.
And we get them out to the concerts. And the way that it started was there was a woman named Hope
Hmm.
December, and she started writing to me saying, my husband Steve has very advanced form of ALS, and you are Steve's favorite artist, and he'd really love to meet you at some point. And so we arranged for them to show up at this festival that I was playing, and they were on the side of the stage. And at this point, Steve was in a motorized wheelchair, and he could only move his lips and speak in very soft whispers. The rest of his body was completely stiff. And during the song that I was singing called Life is Better with You,
One of my
I look over and Steve whispers into Hope's ear and says, "Hope, I want to get up and dance." And so, with all of her strength, she lifts his stiff body up out of the wheelchair. And they have this beautiful slow dance in front of 20,000 people who are all screaming and crying and cheering. And I'm screaming, crying, and cheering. And um, so afterwards, I asked Steve, I said, tell me what this was like for you. And he said, yesterday I was wheeling around the festival, and I live life very differently now. My face is contorted. I drool. Like it's just it's awkward for people when they see me, and so people normally just look the other way.
Mhm.
But after that moment, I suddenly became Steve.
Yeah.
And people came up to me and were saying, "Steve, come dance with us. Steve, come drink a beer with us. Steve, come party with us. Come hang out with us." And it just gave him his sense of like
Self.
dignity, self, humanity, being a music fan again, going to a festival again. And so my wife, Sarah, who was an emergency room nurse for 10 years, we had always been thinking like, how can we bring music and healthcare together? And so we said, let's bring as many people as we can who are sick and dying to concerts or who have other issues going on. And we really believe in that healing power of music for those individuals, but also for their caretakers and their families. So we
For
bring
real.
their families
Yeah.
to the shows too. And it gives them a break because, it becomes a full-time job for a lot of people when they have someone who's really requiring a lot of care.
We talk about caring for the caretaker a lot. That is such an important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so to date, we've sent over 12,000 people to see concerts.
Incredible. And I imagine the artists that they get to go see, it's meaningful for a lot of them too.
It really is. It really is. It makes a difference when, as an artist, it's like you take all this emotion that's inside of you and you kind of just shaping into whatever it will come.
Yeah.
That's the art of it, is like, we're just going to let it flow. And then there's a point where you sort of craft it and you go, oh, we want it to sound like this and we want it to make it like this. But it comes from this like initial emotion, but you never know how it's going to land.
Right.
Like you can write the song that is the most meaningful for you. You put it out there and no one cares, and then you can write something that takes 5 minutes and suddenly it's like
And it's a
all over
huge hit. Right.
the shit. You just don't know.
Right.
And so when you see your music land with somebody, like it is the greatest feeling. Like when I wrote this new song recently called I Hope I Come Back as a song. And
I got to hear it. You snuck it to me and it sounds so great. I love it. I love it.
thank you. And it's about how I have this incredible fear that I'm going to pass away before the people that I love. Like I have a 5-year-old son, and I want to see him grow. Like I want to see if he's going to have, a partner in life, if he's going to have children, what is his career going to be? And, you know, but, realistically, I probably won't get to see all that, and that makes me feel like I'm going to miss out on something,
Yeah.
and, and so I thought, well, what if I could circumvent that, the whole death thing,
How's that going?
And yeah. And so I thought, what if I could come back, And at first I thought, well, maybe I could come back as a puppy.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then I'll get back in the house for sure, like they'll have a little paper for me, a little dog dish with my name on it. And I thought, well, puppy doesn't actually live that long. What if I could come back as something that lasts longer? So I thought, what if I could come back as a song
Yeah.
that could be there for my family to nurture them through their grieving, but also be there in their times of joy, and
Yeah.
could live on through music and in that way. And that's how my songs come, are from those deep feelings. So then now, like, the song isn't even released yet, and I'm singing it on tour.
Wow.
And a guy came up two shows ago in Kansas City, and he already had that tattoo
He
on
did
his arm.
not already
I
on
hope
his
I
arm?
come back as
You're
a song.
kidding me.
He just heard it through the internet,
Wow.
through someone sharing the song.
Wow.
And So, it means so much when for an artist to hear that
Yeah.
um, their art lands. And
Yes.
during the pandemic, we all went through like really dark times,
Sure
and
did.
people turned to music, film, books, like other ways of people sharing creativity for entertainment and for nourishment,
Yeah.
and so often those artists and those creators are overlooked and underappreciated. So it's really nice when people feel that.
Well, it's a beautiful thing, Michael. After what, over 3 decades performing, touring, it's still one of your favorite things to do, isn't it? Performing on stage.
Absolutely. It is, you know, um, I mean, I just love it so much. It's Carl, who's been with me for 30 years, he's my bass player, Carl Young. And we have been through sleeping on floors, playing a show, and then at the end of the night getting on the mic and go, "Hey, who's got a place to sleep?" And we'll roll our sleeping bags, go into the next town. We've had moments where we've had hit songs that have been at the top of the charts, and you put out a record, it doesn't do anything. And yet our fan base has continued to grow over all the years because we just get out there and we just do it. We don't take no for an answer. We just show up and we play from our hearts. And now we just, especially after the pandemic and not being able to connect face to face with people for a couple of years, to be able to do it again feels
So
just
great.
so precious,
Yeah.
and we're so grateful, and we get so much from it. And so, yeah, I love it.
Well, look, I am beyond grateful that we got to connect this way and that people that may not be familiar, because they've been living under a rock, familiar with your music, will get a chance to hear it now. And the Togetherness tour is underway now, 4 months, in 4.5 months roughly. Um, Big Big Love is some new music that's out as well. So there's all of these songs. I hope I hope that people just are soaking it all up because it's some goodness for the soul. As you said, it's balm for the soul. It also help us get through some of these difficult times. I'm going to point people to your Instagram because they can always see. Give us all the places that people can connect with you.
Yeah, Instagram and michaelfranti.com.
Yeah.
And our Soulshine hotel in Bali is a really incredibly beautiful place, and it's a place of both learning and joy and fun. And people also just come on vacation there. And It's all about creating a space for people to manifest change in their life, whatever that change is. And
That.
so
Here's
come on out to Bali, and there's all kinds of retreats. If you go to the soulshinebali.com website, you'll see all kinds of retreats there.
But also, michaelfranti.com is sort of the home base for
It's
all of
the
you.
hub of all of it.
Love,
Yeah.
you can find some of your other advocacy work, you can find merch, you can get the downloads, like,
Yeah.
it's the place to be, people. Please give my love
Yeah.
to Sada, squeeze your son, say
I
what's up
will.
to Carl. I hope to
I
catch
will.
you when you're rolling through Los Angeles. Thank you
Yeah.
for making time to connect with me today. It means the world.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for this new iteration of you, and being able to um, see you without any constraints of whatever else is happening in the news flow for that day, or whatever the producers at the station are saying, but you to be able to just do you, and to show up with the people that you love and talk about how we can get through the challenges of life and find that joy every day and connect to that hope and that wisdom and that strength and that courage that we all need. And it's so like, I always saw you as that person on the news, and to see you now being able to completely step into that in your own way is just beautiful. So
Well, we hope this is just the beginning. We hope this is just the beginning. I had mentioned to you that I've been inspired by how you have carved out that space for what you want to do. And it's inspiring me in my journey as I carve out what I want to do, to just share again this message of, authentic human connection and life,
yeah,
right?
meaningful
Whole
conversation.
conversation.
We all need it. We all want it.
I
Yeah.
send you a virtual internet hug. I don't even know what that is, but I send it your way. And thank you so much for making time today.
Thank you, Michaela.
Be well. And to all of you tuning in, I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Be sure to check out his music, check out his Instagram, check out the website, all of it. And thank you for supporting the podcast. It means the world to me. Be sure to tell some friends about it, subscribe, and we will catch you next time.
All right. Take care,
Bye,
Michaela. Thanks.
Michael.